Yeah, from all that.
Did you lose some water or was it just the wave? How are you?
Right.
Yes. Never emailed the last meeting and then 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know, when you like, it just comes to you like I missed it. Oh.
No, but it's, yeah, you missed out. It's at the quarter of four.
Where's that microphone? It is not, they didn't share. I wonder if it looks this is small. They were.
Feel like maybe? Huh? Maybe it's smaller.
I think they were.
I don't think it was.
Seems a little. On the spot.
Yes.
Can I get up and walk around the room?
You look flat.
Yeah. That.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's okay.
Oh.
Okay. Let me call the meeting to order. I guess I need to get a little more organized for. Welcome to the April 14th, 2025 meeting, City of Plattsburgh Zoning Board of Appeals. We have 3 appeals before us, 2 actual projects. We will hear them in the order that they're listed on the agenda. And we have a full board here. Thank you for being understanding last month. Sorry about that. But so Kenneth Musso, 2391, step on up. Are you, Aaron, are you for both or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What are you looking to do?
Basically, I think it's very nice. Limit of the. So. I think the issue. With 3 floors, it's part of the project. So it's really. No way to really configure this lot without putting the parking spots in the front of the building. Yeah, so. Yeah, that's okay. Sideways, but, our building, if I may point to the screen, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. South Guthrie Street, you see at the top of the drawing. We got a 34-foot wide, 4-unit apartment building going in the back. And, the parking spaces would be up here. You can see the 20-foot front yard setback. Our spaces themselves are basically behind the setback. We have some of our paved area, which is the maneuvering area, parked in these stalls. As you can see, just above the 20-foot front yard setback. So we have some pavement, that would be going into the front yard. If you zoom down, you'll see that we're near the rear setback of the property. So with the sidewalk we have coming down along the building, the doors, the entries facing toward that sidewalk. We think it'll make a nice apartment complex, 1-story, single story. And let's see, are these 1 bedrooms? 10 or 2? These are 2-bedroom apartments. So yes, they're 2-bedroom. I might also have the Judith next door. To the south. I've shown this several times and she has no objections to this approach. She'd prefer that approach. It gives a better view from her home than there. She's been closed in by the Store Tavern for the last 30 years and couldn't really see the side of her house. Appreciate her home. Yeah, you recall any of you the Store Taverns. Been there a number of years, ain't quite run down in its later years. So talking to the neighbors. From what I've heard, they're happy to see that. Oh, get replaced by single life apartments. And the curb cut essentially remain the same, you see here in the foreground.
The one on to the south, though, that would be replaced, right? It looks like there's 2 curb cuts.
Yeah. It doesn't-
And right now it's all paved, correct? It's all tarmac.
So yeah, that's the driveway to the neighboring property.
Oh,
Oh.
oh, okay.
Where was the Store Tavern? Was it set back?
Where the dirt
I
is,
should
I
say,
think.
where is, she's asking, where's the, where was the parking for the Store Tavern?
Was,
It's in the front and the rear, right about a little bit back from where that sand is where the front of the building was. So
Okay.
there's parking in the front and in the rear.
Okay,
Right, I'm gonna just ask a general question and, so in the design process, did you, consider other layouts that would, in other words, maybe a layout with parking in the back or a layout with the building more to the south side towards the side yard setback?
yes, yeah, we did, and we just can't fit you know, a 9x18 is the required stall space. And then the maneuvering area to, you know, back out and get headed back out toward the street just didn't work. that's where we started with the building, pushed all the way to the south, to the 10-foot side yard setback.
Uh-huh.
But it just didn't leave enough room, to park, perpendicular to the building. If you park parallel to the building, you'd be faced with, backing out toward the street and then, getting turned around and then heading back out. It was just, not a good configuration to lay it out, any other way. And, we, with this layout, we're meeting, all of the, zoning setbacks. With the exception, as we said, of having some of the, parking area associated with the parking spaces, in the front yard setback area.
So there was, it's pointed out that the south spot on the south side doesn't have the required maneuvering room to back out.
Actually, all of them don't you need 26?
Yeah, 24 feet is the very minimum we would need to, safely back out and then drive ahead. So, we just couldn't fit it along the north side of the building, no matter how far we look through the building to the south. There's just, you basically need 18 and 24. 42 feet to, have safe maneuvering in and out of a parking slot.
Is that north-south sidewalk necessary?
Yeah, we want a sidewalk, the north-south sidewalk.
The one that goes along the parking lot there.
Right, yeah, yeah, we think it's a good way to get people, into their, front doors without walking through mud or, walking behind their cars. This way you can drive up, get out of your car, get right on the sidewalk and be safe when you're on a sidewalk rather than walking behind cars or, walking on an area that would become mud otherwise.
Yeah. So there would be windows on the end wall there, is that why? So that you don't want the sidewalk right against the building?
Right, yeah, well, we like to leave a little strip between sidewalk and buildings to allow for landscaping. Rather than putting the sidewalks right against the building, this way we get, we get room for some landscaping, and then, yes, I believe there will also be windows on the side walls.
So maybe I misunderstood the question or the answer. I just want to clearly ask, was it considered flipping these and putting the parking in the back on the east end of the building?
Yes,
And you're saying that it didn't work?
no,
Why?
we couldn't fit enough spaces in the back of the building to do that, and then also to have a 24-foot wide driveway, so it wouldn't be one way.
Or you'd have to have a two-way driveway.
Yeah, otherwise it's one way, and that can create a real conflict.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Especially, that far back on the property. You'd have somebody driving down that long driveway and somebody headed out. From the safety perspective. Yeah. In terms of the neighborhood, you've got, that around that market, which is still Lazarus Meat Market, they park in the front across the street. The building next door uses the entire lot is paved. They have a parking area there that goes all the way up to the sidewalk. And then you go around the corner on Grant, the house on the corner to the left of this, and one first one in 6 Grand Street. They park in the front, they actually park in the front yard setback, let alone the front yard, they're actually in the setback area. I don't think it changes the character of that stretch of homes there. Ironically, historically, the store tavern parked there for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
That does make a difference in decision making, but ironically, the parking area is the same as it's been for 40 years.
Is there, again, this is more of a design question, I suppose, but, so the, how to say it? The shape of the building itself could I mean, I know you don't want to put angles in a room, but if you, it seems like you could. It'd be possible anyway to change the outline of the building in a way that would orient the parking lot more parallel to the street.
Yeah, if you go back to the plan view, or if you're looking at the plan.
Yeah.
You'll notice that there's a pretty drastic angle point on this, our south property line. You see it?
Yeah, right at the corner of the building there.
Yeah, that top left corner up there, where we show the 19.37 dimension. See the bearing changes by several degrees at that point.
So,
And then we're kind of very tight to the rear yard setback of the building now.
You want me to zoom in, Scott?
Pardon me?
You want me to zoom that in more?
Well, I'm just looking at it, I think. If we start rotating the building, in this view, it'd be clockwise, I think, to achieve what you were thinking about it. And, yeah, I don't know that we'll gain much by doing that in terms of that record setback.
you could, again, this is not really my, yeah, it's really your building, but if you could sort of cut the corner, in other words, the rooms that would replicate all the way through the building, and so that you would have cut a corner out and what would be the northwest corner, cut that corner out, kind of add it to the southwest corner. It would change every room or every unit, but it would
Yeah, I don't know
It's
how
just,
desirable that could make
yeah.
the units in terms of, from a marketing perspective, yeah.
it's just, it just, I think that if there's an issue with the variance, I think it's that well, I guess in some ways it comes too close to representing to duplicating the parking lot that was there, which I think people would like to have, gotten rid of.
Thinking the tenants at the same time, by using this layout, the lady to the south, if you remember, she got a variance for a taller than usual fence because of the unfortunate clientele from the
Right.
store tavern. But with this layout, it gives the tenants a bit of a private backyard
Right.
area, and each one backs up to their fence, so it gives the comfort of living is a little bit enhanced for the tenants themselves.
Mhm.
The other thing is that we can build this without putting any windows in front of the building if necessary, which means that no one's home gets washed with headlights when they pull in, and nor does the lady next door. Yeah, we could gain about 5 feet if we eliminated the strip between the sidewalk and the building. you know, slide the whole parking lot 5 feet further in.
The constraint in the back of the building is that a pre-existing building primarily?
No. So, I think when the back of the building, you're talking about the rear.
Setback?
Yes, the 25-foot rear yard setback.
That might be an easier variance, though.
I want to ask a couple of questions, but before I ask, I want to just make it very clear, I don't speak for the board and their opinions about, this is just my own personal opinion. I know for myself, I'm reluctant to grant the variances for parking in the front of homes because it's unsightly and it's not what we're looking for in the city. Looking at all the different pieces of this, and I know this neighborhood very well, I agree with you that there are homes around, I know the neighborhood and there are homes where they park in the front. B, this parking has existed and they've been using that for many, many years. I get that as well. And if you were to do the alternative and put the parking in the back and pull the building forward, it does block the view from the home next door. She would essentially be looking at the side of your building out of her front, and she just reconstructed her whole patio and porch and all of that. That's really pretty there. Would you be open to, you just mentioned taking away that sidewalk or the space between the building and the sidewalk, and my thought is that's a good little strip to put some landscaping
Yeah, that's.
to dress that up so it doesn't look like a parking lot. To leave some space around the, where it turns into the corner. If you could maybe cedar hedge there, that would dress that up and make it, beautify it.
You're saying closest to the road, if you bumped back 5 feet up near the road, add more landscaping?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
so you had just mentioned, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name.
Scott.
Scott, oh, Scott. You were saying to remove that strip between the building and the sidewalk is that what you just said?
It's possible to do that.
But my thought
We're
is-
anticipating putting landscaping between.
Exactly, so
Sidewalk.
my thought is that would not be something we would be seeking, because the more green that we can see, the more pretty it's gonna look. And the thought is to eliminate, a paved front yard. Right, so I guess that's my question is, would you be willing to? And again, I'm not speaking for the board, we're not doing that at all, but for my own peace of mind, if I said. That I'd be all right with this, but I'd be all right with it if you put some money into some landscaping around that driveway. That parking spot.
On the street side?
On the side, like where just anywhere that you can put landscaping, around that parking area to make it look less paved.
Actually, I don't mind those kind of things because it actually enhances the tenant's livability.
Yes, I agree.
More pleasant to walk along landscaping than anything. If we call north or South Avenue Street, if we call north this way, right in the drawing, then I think you're talking about the south side of the parking lot.
Correct.
There and how do you pronounce that? Udall? Between there and the Udall property. So in this area here.
That triangle,
What you're saying.
yes, and the
Yeah.
space between the parking and the house. Or the townhouse.
That's
Yeah.
what they were planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, just anywhere that you
You know what we
can
could
make it.
do, I think, and maybe I can take this whole thing. We can shift it over. See, we have some space here. I can shift this whole parking lot over. You can see how that southwest corner of our parking lot,
Mhm.
really close to the property line there. Or actually, that's the old. That's the old. If we shift the whole thing over, we could provide more space. Actually, that's her educated. That's what that is. That driveway approaches on us a little bit. But we could still shift this over. And you know, allow. You know, some landscaping between. The property line and the corner of the parking.
When you look at the old pictures of the store tavern, and we had looked at the curbing, it's all, right, like it's all gone. If we could somehow put back some greenery in the front there, it's just so bleak right now, so bleak, and to just say, yeah, we're gonna keep going with that. When because I'm kind of like, I'm not close to this neighborhood, but I'm over on Waterhouse Street. And when the store tavern was gone, we were like, yes, hopefully they'll put something beautiful in there and use that space and improve the neighborhood.
Now, see, our plan shows demolishing. It's dated, we don't need it as part of the parking lot, so that can be regrassed there. And then we can slide our whole parking lot over. We can add grass along this side as well.
So on your drawing, it looks like you have cars coming in on the north going into the parking. Are you looking to put more curbing in the front there and like possibly regrass that area in the front? Or are you gonna keep it all open the way that it is right now?
If you see our note says remove existing pavement to match new pavement lines.
Well, you were just pointing at on the,
On this note here,
Oh, okay,
here. So
reduce curb
that's what I.
4 feet, okay.
That area would be
Okay.
infilled with grass. Because the pavement goes right out to the sidewalk now. So we could remove some of that pavement. And infill that with grass. We want to keep the 24-foot wide throat, the curb cut. But yeah, if we take that full driveway and slide it over a few feet, that will allow us. You know, some more grass on the what would be the south side of the parking lot.
If the parking spots were perpendicular to the road. It was sort of keeping your arrangement for the parking area. But if the parking spaces themselves were perpendicular to the road. Would it make it easier to park?
I don't know that it'd make it any easier to park, but I do know that. By doing that rotation. We're gonna take that. It would be the west line of the parking lot now, the new pavement, and push it out closer to the street. And I think what I just heard is we're trying to preserve. As much green space there as we could.
I was actually more thinking of, so if you expanded the north side, like you were talking about, of the parking lot. Closer to the property line. And then.
Yeah, and then twist it a little more, yeah.
Not so much twist the parking lot, just twist the spaces. So that way they would, it would, I mean, it would almost look like angle parking, but since it was perpendicular to the road, it would be more of a pull-in.
Yeah, I guess. You know, I would be concerned about how you know, backing out. In order to drive back out on the South Patrick Street, we don't want to force anybody to have to back onto the street.
Well, but see, I think that if it was angled, so that you take the parking spot on the south side. If it was angled. Keep the parking lot orientation that you have, but if the parking spot itself was perpendicular to the road. Excuse me, that would give them some swing room, actually. See what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think the issue is the parking design. Tim, I think it's the location of the parking lot. And the reason that's an issue is because it's putting the parking lot where there is normally green space.
Yeah.
I want to try to see if we can negotiate how to get as much green space in there as possible.
Excuse me.
And I think we can achieve that by sliding that whole parking area to the north. You know, as far as we can, but still line up with the existing curve.
I have one more question.
Pardon me,
I'm just wondering about the width of the entrance to 24 feet. Is there a reason that needs to be that large?
we're zoning.
Oh. Sorry. Well, I knew that.
It's parking.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
That way you have.
that's right, yeah. I knew
You can have a car,
handicap.
one car parked leaving and another car able to get in off the
Yeah.
street safely.
Which part?
So. So, I mean, there's a marked handicap. So.
Yep.
So how does that, I mean, what's the
All of
regulation for?
Is the aisle diminished for every one of those spaces or just those couple to the south, Scott, you know?
We've got 4 9x18s. And then our handicap drop-off stall would leave that 9x18.
Okay, so I
And
think,
then the handicap space, it might be, I'm just judging here, it looks like it's a little wider than maybe. I think we can narrow that up. And again, I understand, you know, the goal to try to, you know, move things north here as much as we can. And some more green space for that southerly side of the parking. And that handicap space can kind of be narrow at the touch. Yeah.
26 feet is what's required for the,
How many handicap spots for the parking building? I mean, is that
it's a townhouse,
about
it's not an apartment building, I have to look in the building code. That's not a zoning issue, that's a building code issue.
Well, any other questions, comments? I guess then it's time to take a look at the seeker. Um, And a couple of comments on the seeker. Question 2. Require permit approval or funding from any other government agency. You do need a building permit, obviously. So that is a yes. And building permit, this doesn't go to planning, correct? Is that what we decided?
I don't think so.
Okay. Question 5B, consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. Nothing was checked. Any feelings on
No, I
that?
did. It did.
Oh. There's that, okay. But is the proposed action consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan? Want an opinion there, Scott?
Certainly, yeah, as long as you're complying, you know, with the zoning ordinance,
Okay.
to the extent that we can, and I would say it's definitely consistent with the.
And was left blank.
Oh, yeah, that can be filled in as a yes.
Yeah, and any public transportation services available at or near the site. I would say they're as close to public transit as anyone. I'm assuming the car goes down.
Yeah, there used to
There
be a
used to
little bench
be,
right there.
there used to be a stop right at the corner of Grant Street. I don't know if it's still
Okay.
there.
And that was it that I had. Um, and that would- I'll entertain a motion on the seeker.
I mean, make a motion for appeal 2391, the short environmental assessment form. After review, the chair. After review of 1 through 20, the chair can check on part 2 boxes that there are no or small impact make boxes 1 through 11 and sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And
But we could certainly, if you were looking at a condition, approval to rotate, the building to the degree that we can. And rotate the parking lot as well, and shift the parking lot to the north to provide more green space on the south side of the road. Certainly, comply with that condition, and I can revise and submit the drawing back to the building department.
okay. I realize.
So part of what's being sought here as far as it goes is not having the 26 feet for the perpendicular parking. So shifting that parking would have to not probably diminish that further.
Open.
And I don't know, I'm just saying that ahead of time, I'm not sure if it would or not.
I think we can make that work. We narrow up that green space on the west side of the building, like was mentioned earlier. And yeah, we can make that work.
You didn't miss it, it wasn't in there.
Okay,
He mentioned it in the pre-meeting and he's mentioning it
okay,
more stringently right now that on our motion, it needs to note that the 24 is deficient.
No, 26, yes, you're right, aisle, that's 26 for the aisle parking.
Yes.
Not 24, last day.
No, that's okay, it's on the application.
And before we go any further, I will open it to the public. Is there anyone who wants to say anything? You aren't against it? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing portion. And we'll entertain a motion. And motion can include a wish list if we'd like. That he does rotate it if he could to get the parking a little more. What was the reason to do it? Just get away from the property line? Rotate the parking,
Yeah, I think that
or
would be-
rotate the building.
Rotate the building and
Building.
parking.
Parking, I think the intent is to create as much green space
Okay,
on the south side of the park.
how far does her fence go out right now?
If you go back to the plan, you'll see it ends right about at that angle point. Well, you can see it here, see the red on the north end of the, or be the west end of the fence.
Sorry, I'm colorblind, I can't see red.
And
Right at the
the
end.
side closest
Yeah,
to us.
okay.
Yeah.
That's just about where the property line angles. Lines up more perpendicular.
Okay, so the parking won't be backing in towards her fence.
Nope, no, we got,
Okay.
well, we'll have 18, 20 feet between.
Okay, because on your drawing, that corner, that southwest corner, almost looks like it's over property line on the drawing
Southwest corner.
of your parking is nipped off.
That meets existing pavement.
Okay,
That's where it's nicked off. The property line is another. Oh, maybe 5 feet to the south there. You see the big black
okay.
circle? That's the property corner. Then the property line runs down. So we're not going right up to the property line. We're not going up to her edge of pavement. And
Okay.
you may wanna talk with the neighbor there.
Okay,
I just have one more, just one. So I guess this would be on the north side of the building, I guess. That's all grass.
You have another landscaping strip between the north side of the building and the sidewalk. And then between the sidewalk and the next property line to the north would all be grass.
All grass. So access to the back will just be over the grass.
Okay. Wanna make a motion?
okay,
I make a motion for appeal 2391. For Beth Musso for approving the parking in the front of the building. Located at 4946. 4946 South Catherine Street. To approve, with the understanding that Mr. Musso will, to the best of his ability, create the parking spaces to include as much green space and landscaping as you can. Which may also include rotating the parking lot. However best you can do that.
In the
You
building.
have to mention 24, I think.
Oh, do I have to mention?
yes,
Okay.
because it's a variance.
And that we approve for the parking lot to have the 24-foot setback as opposed to 26.
I'll second.
No, it's 24-foot aisle width.
Aisle width.
Yep.
As opposed to
Good job.
26.
Yes,
But with the rotate the parking lot in the building.
It's not contingent on him doing that. It's that he will try to the best of his ability to do that if need be, but that's not how I'm wording that he has to do that.
I mean, like you had parking lot, can we put the building to with the same?
We could rotate that building. See it as, beneficial to achieve
Okay.
that goal of the green space. It won't be much, but I think a few degrees. we can
Yeah, a few
rotate
degrees.
that. Not encroach at any other zoning requirement.
second,
I'll second.
hey, you got 5 yes votes. You're welcome, thank you for coming before us, thank you for putting it off, for having 5 reviewing.
It'd be a pleasure to put more green area on that lady's side, she's quite pleasant.
Yeah, she's a sweet woman. So I own Dugan's located where Lashways used to be. Dugan's Deli is now where Lashways Meat Market is. That is mine. So I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood and I've lived on Waterhouse Street. I really like what you did down on the corner of Goff and South Catherine. Yeah, oh my gosh. yes.
Over there. It's not always easy to, I call it inner city redevelopment.
Yeah.
Buildings down and start over again, it's
Yeah.
a bit more costly, so you have to be sometimes a little more creative in your thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Came out really
Thank you
nice.
for that, 'cause I thought about that, we came up pretty good, I'm pretty proud of it, actually.
Yeah, we're very happy with it. I walk by it all the time.
Which one is that?
The corner of Goff and South Catherine Street.
Across from Verizon.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
You can see we take care of our property.
Yeah.
So we would do a special job for it.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, come on down.
Looking forward to this item.
Okay. What are you doing?
I am here to seek a use variance on a property that's currently zoned industrial. I would like to request a variance to build side-by-side townhouse units. And then also the lot is, the area variance, the lot is deficient in depth for the zone. So we're seeking the area.
What is the deficiency?
It's 150 and it's 82. It's 51. All of these.
So the efficiency is just in size, but not in coverage
No.
or setbacks.
That you're utilizing townhouse houses or. But the lot is, it's deficient for industrial, the current building as well. So
Yes.
anyone looking to do anything on this lot. Will be able to,
Is the parking? Not to get the nitty gritty right away, but is the parking deficient as well? Cause it's only 18 feet. We just determined we need 24 for coming and going.
Yeah, I guess if, again, I got 24, I don't know why I was thinking 24 instead of 26.
Well, when you enter off the street, it says 18 at the
Yeah.
tightest point.
See that?
Is there a reason you couldn't expand it to conform?
I don't see why we, let's see, we definitely gotta add the 2 feet. And, we should be able to do that, and then. The 6 feet. That'll be a bit of a challenge to get that,
So you're coming to the parking
to
spots.
get that 18 to, 24 feet. You notice the radius that we have for that first space off the driveway. We would be, by moving it maybe 6 feet to the north, we would be cutting that a little closer.
Yeah,
So I think it would be beneficial if we could see the variance on that.
Okay.
Or something less than 24, even if we said 22. Wall Street is a less busy street than North Manhattan. If we can get in now safely, even on a 20-foot driveway there. So if we ask for 20 feet instead of the 24-foot driveway. And I think we can. I hate to commit to doing 26 feet in that aisle, because if you look at, again, north it is on this sheet. So if you look at the northeast corner of our parking lot, we're very close to the property line there.
Mhm.
And you look back down in the southwest corner of the building. We're right on our side yard setback there. So I'd recommend asking for a variance of 24 feet instead of 26. On the parking aisle. And then I'd ask for 20 feet instead of 24 in the driveway. For
How many townhouses were coming?
So you have more than
Plan, there is a
parking.
like, little dots. Notating each.
The setbacks that you've, oh yeah, you have, those are the R2 setbacks.
Dots in the-
Yeah, we show both the industrial setbacks and the R2 setbacks. If you see the industrial setbacks, it virtually makes the, you know, maybe a single wide would fit on there.
That, so the class B variance is for side yard and front yard. It still has, those dimensions are still required in the industrial district. That's how I have it written here on the top on this.
Right, yeah, we show basically, we show the R2 setbacks for comparison to the I.
Okay.
So, you know, we're not really asking to rezone the property, we're asking for a variance to allow R2 setbacks, R2 uses in an industrial zone.
And the property to the south of the 85 Wall Street, we were granted a variance in 2006 for the same thing. We had an existing building there, but we added construction units, and that's a 6-unit building. And this prison.
Yeah, and just north of it, we should point out too, we were here, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so. Ken, I think, looking for a similar variance, because there were 2 buildings, or two residences on a single lot. And we went through the variance process to essentially apply R2 setbacks, so that would allow us to split those into individual lots with a single family home in each one, so. We went through the very similar variance request. Now, the reason we didn't have to ask for a use variance is because we were pre-existing non-conforming. The homes were there. They predated the zoning ordinance when this was zoned industrial. Down here on the vacant property. Right, this is vacant.
There's an existing house.
All that's right, there's an existing house there,
Still have it.
but we're demolishing it. And putting up a new townhouses.
Unfortunately, the back of that house is collapsed.
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, so by virtue of demolishing and putting up new. That triggers the request for the use variance.
So the current use is non-conforming.
Right. Well, yeah, the existing.
It's one.
Right. Right. Him done some research on this too, up and down that whole stretch of Wall Street.
Yes.
If
If you like to see, I color coded that every single residential use that is industrial, but all the blue is every residential use on that. street. Obviously, other than Alston and Mulberry.
And there's no residence homes, with the exception, I think, of this one here. Nice homes, I don't think. You know, it's a situation where the neighborhood is gonna go away and eventually be reclaimed by industrial. Plus you got the mobile home park, with the residents.
Yeah, a number of the properties have come up for sale over the last, I mean, since we've been bought next door in 2006, and. I mean, Mulberry hasn't purchased any of their properties, neither has Alston. Like Scott said, we don't touch any of the industrial properties. We have our 6 units here to the south of us. The west is an extra deep, single family home, and the trailer.
So in that regard, I think the response is not a taken in the neighborhood. Consistent with the whole character. Open neighborhood.
Being there's only already 1 residential unit on the property, we're adding 3. For the total.
Just out of curiosity, how big are these townhouses going to be?
1140 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1.5 baths.
I noticed you have 8 parking spaces when only 4 are required. Is there a reason why you made the parking space area so large?
You don't have to, I always just automatically do 2 spots per unit. A number of our properties, we have some people that only have 1 car. Even some people that have many cars, so.
Is,
And you own the property to the south. Okay. What would happen if they combined the properties?
I don't know enough about that. What are we talking about in terms of what?
Well, the other property already has a variance for a use variance.
Is that it? That,
This
is that the
left.
property, that the other property is in the picture there? Yeah. Yeah,
There'd be a variance for 2 principal use buildings.
Well, they wouldn't be able to do that without being another variance because that'd be furthering that.
For the use variance, if they combined them,
There's no advantage to doing that, I don't think.
well, not issuing a, not approving a use variance is an advantage.
Why do you bring it up?
I-
Why do you bring it up? What are you thinking?
Well, because whenever they're talking about variances with adjacent owned properties by the same people, one of the things to look at is, what if you combine them?
We have 2 principal buildings on 1 lot.
Yeah,
But that wouldn't be a use or a class A, correct?
I think it still would be once we make that property line disappear. Yeah, I think the key here is by demolishing that building, I think that's what triggers the use variance. And then, of course, there's mortgage reasons, the banks, like to have their mortgages separate and
Yeah.
clear.
In actuality, my husband and I own that property. We are also partners with Kalen Development LLC, which owns 89, so it's a different. You're talking about companies downstairs, so it's not that we couldn't, transfer, but our personal names are ownership, so.
so they are different.
Gotcha.
It's a different, it's a technically a different ownership. The, well, so I'm confused about the 2 separate variances, what the differences are.
What's that?
There, I mean, there's a request for 2 variances.
Yes. One is the use variance, which is significantly harder to get.
Okay,
Okay, we need a lot more information on a use variance,
okay.
and I don't think we have it, but we'll get into that. That's where you've got your 4 rules that you have to weigh it against. Whereas an area variance is more. It's just easier, you don't have to meet all those requirements. No, we should never use variance, because there's no sense to the area, if the use doesn't go through. I mean, right off the bat. We received. The use variance hardship. There's really there's nothing here that states you have purchase price, but it didn't go out for out on the market, correct? Okay, so we don't have an actual value, just because that's what you paid for it, doesn't call it a value.
There's two buyers.
Was there appraisal? No. Then. You know, from that standpoint.
And I think, you know, if you look at the question of whether or not you can realize a reasonable return on the property, given the condition of that existing building, I would tend to think that there's, you know, you're not gonna get a reasonable return off that without demolishing it and starting it.
Why didn't you come to us before you bought the property?
We had contacted him before and obviously we're excited to get a property in the city of Plattsburgh to hopefully do some development and
There, you know, and there is precedence by virtue of the property to the south, there's precedence of the city granting the variance to make the property usable, so I think, you know, it's not an unreasonable expectation to buy, you know, defunct property like this and pursue redevelopment of it.
especially attractive because we own the property next door and we've been pleased with that property, so we're looking to decide to. We also just completed 4 new construction units at the other end of Wall Street. Using a vacant parcel down there. In kind of like Devon Street as well, so we're very well established on that Wall Street corridor.
Yours is the one that's across the street. Like you go to the end of Wall Street and then it's across the street.
Yeah.
That came out nice.
Do you know, by any chance what the other offers were?
Actually, not. It's
What did you, what,
the highest.
did you start at your, did you start at your final price or
No,
did you?
he started.
Any other questions, comments? I'll open up to the public. Any comments? No? Okay, I'll close the public hearing portion.
Can I have a question
Yes.
to you?
Yeah.
Am I correct in understanding that, is that house officially condemned at this point? Is it, I
There's
mean,
no
I'm assuming it's
official-
unlivable.
There's a foundation underneath it, but it's like crumbling in. I mean, we can say thing under there, it's completely uninhabitable.
And I'm correct that it is a non-conforming use as of right now, and once that is removed, whether they rebuild exactly the same house or whatever is built, they will still need this use variance.
Yes. Or a use variance, yes. So. We'll talk about the use variance first, just because that's the hardest one to get. And let me read to the board, just so we're well aware of it, of the requirements. One, the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return provided that lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. And they've held that just because someone purchased a property doesn't necessarily mean that's the value of the property. And the comment in some of the notes that I've seen is bad business decision to buy a property doesn't make it a hardship. And here comes the real kicker. Alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. And this applies to every property in that neighborhood. So it's not unique.
So what is the? Can you repeat that way?
The alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood.
Well, you could say that it is unique because it's probably the first property in the neighborhood that was, well, it,
What's the workaround for all these, like, that's kind of the crux of it, right? The workaround is that all of these are industrial, but it's
right,
Yeah.
residential.
So
and they were
it is
all
unique.
pre-existing, or the
The-
uses were pre-existing.
Well, but the bigger point is, it is unique in that this is a condemned, well, it's
No,
roughly a condemned.
Well, no, because I could put a factory on top and it'd be fine.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay. I'm just saying that, okay,
I mean, every property on that street has the same issue
yes.
in that neighborhood.
But they were, but
How
the
many have
resident,
use
but
variances already?
the neighborhood was,
Probably the one next to it, and that's it.
the neighborhood was primarily built up pre-zoning though.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
from my understanding, your new zoning ordinance is not contemplating changing that?
That's what they,
Well, and they talked out of both sides of their mouth when did you see the letter that the planning staff sent?
Yes, and I understand it, but I don't. Because
I agree.
the surrounding properties, in order, unless an industrial company wants to come in and pay whatever it is, everyone's magic number to sell. And with us only next door, we're not looking to sell at any point, so I don't understand how they can expand. I mean, to me, I would think they would expand into the trailer park first, that's a large parcel, but, and it's adjacent to them. I don't know, I would say it's unique because it's if that house wasn't there, it'd be the only vacant lot along the street. And we come back to you next month and the house is gonna be there. It's the uniqueness, but, and I
Yeah.
understand your hardship, but I would think that anyone coming to utilize that lot. I don't see the size of the lot would be conducive to industrial uses under the allowable uses as it stands.
you could say it's unique because it's the only property in the neighborhood that is currently in need of a use variance in order to, because everybody else
But
already has.
That's not unique. That's unique to the
Circumstantial,
situation.
yeah.
It's not unique to the property. Type of thing.
Well, you could also say that the property is unique in that it is deficient for it's deficient in its it's deficient in its current zoning. It cannot be used in as an industrial property. As it is. Which is sort of unique.
Now,
I mean, look at the front yard setback, industrial is 40 foot and the rear is 20 foot. That gives them about 15 feet
yeah,
to build something.
the next item. The requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. I don't think that's an issue. And lastly, the alleged hardship has not been self-created. And that's a point of discussion. The other thing that they do need to do is prove such unnecessary hardship. The applicant shall demonstrate to the Board of Appeals that for each and every permitted use under the zoning regulations, where the property is located. So you really have to take a look at each use and why it doesn't apply. And there are some uses that could be done just with an area variance. Get to the chart. Who's next? I mean, obviously the straight industrial, I think we all agree. Manufacturing, research lab, warehouses, trucking terminals, food processing, bottling plants, public facilities, airports. Nurseries, greenhouses, parks and playgrounds, public utilities. Storages. One item that could possibly work is offices are allowed. Museums, library doesn't seem right, private clubs. And there's other uses that I think going through all of them don't really apply. In my opinion, junkyard, cement manufacturing, petroleum, eating establishments, not serving alcohol, energy production, adult use, and concert events, planned unit developments, hotels, eating and drinking establishments, community garden, commercial cryptocurrency. So there would be another one, cryptocurrency could. They would just need an area variance to be able to build on that lot.
So the area variance would change the setbacks.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we all realize reasonably with the industrial, the setbacks are prohibitive. But that's an area variance and not a use variance. And one of the requirements is they are required to show that all of those possibles are not feasible and that they've investigated.
Here's what
But they would change the character of the neighborhood.
But my point is that any of those uses, and you can add to the cryptocurrency.
Exactly.
My own tenants. I don't feel that it would fit the character and respect, some of the neighbors, which we already established, and all these houses have been here for 70, 80 years. I mean, now we're introducing pods.
Okay.
within-
But here's the thing. We're required to do this. I understand what you're saying. But we don't have the capability to change that. The people that sit here at a different meeting on a different day are the ones that need to change that.
Mhm.
I mean, in my heart, I agree with you.
But you don't
I
think
don't-
you've met the burden of proof to issue a use
That's
variance?
where I'm coming from.
When were the variances issued for the Musso properties?
2003,
Six.
was it?
For 85
Six.
was in-
2006, sorry.
For 85, going by with the two
Are you on
residential,
board?
the two residential homes to the,
That was just a subdivide.
oh, that was a subdivision.
Yeah.
They didn't need a,
Not a use variance.
they didn't need a use variance?
No, because it didn't change,
Granted on the south, property, correct?
it didn't change. They didn't do anything other than subdivide.
Oh,
The
but that,
housing, the buildings remain identical.
I see.
What was that? Sorry.
There was a use variance granted for the property on the south, correct? And what year was that granted?
2006.
2006.
Were you
Um,
on board?
I was not, no.
What was on the property, the 85 before?
There's an existing building, was used as a holistic center, but it had many uses over the years, through various stories from the neighbors telling me, and we made apartments in that existing building and reconstruction.
Which also goes to the reasonable expectation of parking. You know, you buy this property knowing that there's been precedence. A variance and a use variance getting granted to the adjacent property. You know, I don't think it was unreasonable to think, but I think, you know, there's maybe the ability to, you know, provide some proof and, you know. Appraisals and so
So,
forth.
no, and that's the thing I'm struggling with.
What's that?
Granting this would not set precedents. It's already,
Nothing we grant, everything's special use variance, there's no precedent set by any particular variance we grant, correct?
Correct.
so I think I'm picking up the vibe that we all agree that the issue here is how it's zoned, and that, because even if you were asking to put an industrial thing in there, we'd be like, that's like the entire street is residential. So the issue is the way that it's zoned, and as a zoning board, we have several jobs to follow this, but we also have the job of determining what is in the best interest for our city.
But when it comes to use variances, we are bound by what we're required to do. That's the part about it, that it is that you can't go against. Okay, even though you know we have a requirement to follow the code and to follow the requirements for a use variance.
Okay, so let's talk about how to meet that.
Okay,
So, you have the first one, so we agree, it doesn't alter the character of the neighborhood, so
Yeah.
that one's good. Self-created, that's
debatable.
debatable, but we
Yes.
could kind of move on from that, right? The alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique. I feel like personally, like that also is
Yeah.
a non-issue. It is unique in that you have a home that has to be torn down. Right? Like it cannot. And that in and of itself is the hardship. You have a building that is zoned a certain way. And you can't do anything with that building. So no matter what, you have to address issues when you tear it down.
And I think you also, to help in that, you can say that based on the industrial zoning, you'd only have what, like 10, like skinny 10-foot building to build.
Yeah.
Right, so there's a
that's unique to
hardship
the
to put
property.
any type of industrial place in there anyway.
Right.
So we met that. So what would you be looking for in terms of a financial proof?
Well, just saying that they bought something for a set price and that they have this much in taxes and what have you is not financial burden.
How long have you owned the property?
January.
Ah,
Even if I were the previous owner who had owned it for, I don't know how many years her father owned it. They could come to you too, and they wouldn't be able to sell it because like you said, you can't, the house was not savable, so.
See, and
They
they
would-
would, that's the
would-
whole thing, they would have a case for the hardship. Saying that the house is deteriorated, I've owned it for years. When you buy something, knowing that you have to do this,
I was just gonna
what's
ask
that?
an affidavit from the previous
Yeah,
owner.
I think there's ways to prove that affidavit from the seller. I think we can get opinions from realtors, you know, that this is probably not a good fit for an office building. I think we can compare the cost of single family home construction to multifamily and show where you know, it's much heavier financial burden just to build one house here I think there's ways that we can provide proof, you know, if that's what you want for the record, you want to just make a reasonable judgment based on the testimony here today. You know, I don't know, I don't want to put Kim in jeopardy of a no vote here, then you're out of luck. But if you entertain it across the table, and may be able to, I think, get the proof that you're looking for. In the
So,
form of affidavits, appraisals, realtors, opinions, and so.
so the house was not listed, but there were two other offers. Was there a broker or an agent? So how did do you know how where the other offers came from?
The bigger burden to prove is all the other potential industrial uses and why they don't work, right?
I think that logically, we can all,
Based on the size
Say,
of the lot,
yeah.
okay.
you
good.
know, based on the size of
That's
the
easier.
lot, they won't work.
Yeah.
But I would like
Yeah, we can
it to,
put that in. writing.
Yes.
Together for the record.
and I think that, yeah. That can be judgmental. I mean, if anyone can't figure that an airport can't go on that lot, you know, they shouldn't be in here. You know, along those lines.
Right.
But there is one or two in there that, yes, could go in, but there may be a reason not to. And I guess I'd like to have that documented. And you know, my feeling is, yes, I would feel more comfortable with more financial backing to go into the record to justify our decision.
Scott, can you read that a part about the financial part again?
Which the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, provided that lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence.
And reasonable is,
That's our judgment. There's nowhere where that's written as to what is a reasonable return.
so if they estimated what the income from an apartment building would be compared to a reasonable reuse of this space that would still need some other kind of a variance. For
Well,
instance, like if you're gonna park a trailer on there, which, right?
Which you can't do.
It's still the same.
I mean, some of their information can be self-serving. They're in the rental business. So, you know, if you bring in comparable properties and say, this is what it brings in, you know, we can take their, you know, take them at their word if we trust them, without requiring, say, something from an accountant. I mean,
Do they even need that? I
that
mean,
is,
don't they need to speak to this and
Competent
not the
financial.
future?
well, with they have to show that they can't get a reasonable return in other ways.
So what, I mean, the other ways would be,
Yeah, that's. vague.
Industrial.
the other ways that would not require a use variance.
Well, I mean, one of the things that they may say is that an office will give them a reasonable return. Why not? Yeah,
Yeah,
So we'll
I
go
said-
through the permitted uses for the industrial and, you
Mhm.
know, some of them are, I don't think they even are worthy of
I
addressing.
agree.
But the ones that you
But
mentioned, Scott.
any of the
Office
ones that
space, yeah, sure.
might be a possibility. There are some businesses down there. Or at least there used to be, I haven't been down at the end of Main Mill in a while.
But even then, an office space would not fit in easily with the neighborhood. Right?
But that's a different issue to that.
But it was on,
I think it was on Main now.
yes.
Here's a question.
Yes, sir.
Would there reasonably be enough available parking to support an office space?
Well, that's a good question.
I hope not,
That's the thing.
right?
That's the type of thing that we're looking
Depends on
into.
the office.
Yeah, I would hope there would be.
Yes. No. I would do it on their behalf. The requirements in the code for them to bring it in. I mean, it really doesn't matter because they're gonna be back next month anyways. Am I correct?
I'm sorry, what was the discussion?
Whether to postpone on our behalf or your behalf. And I said. Call me a pain in the butt, but this is stuff that should come with the application. It's in the code, this is what you need to bring.
So I'd like to request a tabling of the.
Okay, so somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we postpone on behalf of the applicant. Both 2393 and 2394 for KLM properties to our next meeting in May.
It's okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, how's you get it? You get it looking for that, now, look at being down. We're gonna be short.
No, May's a good one.
May is a good
May
month.
should be a good month.
June may not be a good month, just putting that out there.
Thanks.
Scott and Kevin, feel free to. Through them, actually, if we need anything, but if you want just me, I'd be willing to. I don't speak for the board, but I think you've noticed I'm the one who's kind of pushing this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we got people, we got minutes. We can do minutes.
Yes.
We can't do the one because Ellie's not here.
That's right, there were only 3 of us there.
You do December, right?
All right.
Oh. I make a motion to approve the December minutes.
Second,
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Oh, that's right.
And,
And we can't do,
Yeah, can we do those with just 2? I don't think so.
no,
Okay.
3.
Then I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
I